Welcome back, everyone, to Meditations by Gregory T. Obert. I'm your host, Gregory T. Obert. Thank you so much for joining me today. Well, it's that time of year again where we've, reached the end of the year, and we'll be moving into a whole new thing in less than a month at this point. And I'm very excited for a new year. I feel like the last few years for me have been extremely stressful, and I imagine some of those years have been extremely stressful for you all as well. In case you're not familiar with this final episode that I do at the end of the year, usually I like to talk a little bit more off the cuff, a little bit about what happened to me over the past year, what I plan for the show, as well as myself even in the next year to come. And so if that's something that you're interested in, please feel free to continue listening. If you're not interested in that, I want to thank you for any support that you were able to give me over the course of this past year. If you are interested in financially supporting the show, which definitely helps out a lot, please consider picking up a copy of my book, The Man on the Bench. Links to the ebook and the audiobook are in the description below. I know I keep saying I got to get hardcovers, or I guess soft covers, physical copies back out onto the streets again. I used to have those through Books A Million, but that program shut down. So I just need to switch it over to Amazon, and I just haven't for the longest time, but I intend to very shortly. So as far as what's gone on with me over the past year, it's been quite a doozy, let me tell you. I know I allude to some of this stuff in my episodes each week, but I guess I don't feel like most people care about that as much, so I don't usually go into it too much because most people are here for some sort of guided meditation, and that's why I just kind of keep it vague and don't really, talk too much about it. But this year was very stressful for me. For those that don't know, I ended up getting married last year, and basically 2 months after getting married, we moved to another state, and a huge culture shift. And I started my internship for my doctorate in psychology, which I don't know why they call it an internship. It's really more of a residency. It's just a year of work experience to make sure you know what you're doing. But the thing is, as most residents know, that means they can pay you a whole lot less than what they pay a normal psychologist for doing the exact same work. So that was a little tough on my wife and I on our finances. But the year kicked off with a family member unfortunately getting cancer. And I don't want to say who, just in case, they don't want me to put their business online. But a family member who was very close to me, and just, it was an awful situation, completely unexpected. And my wife was a saint, and she went back to take care of my family member back to Chicago. And it was just, very kind of her to do. And it was difficult on me. I couldn't take the time off and stay on track to finish my program if I were to go back. And, I had 2 jobs, and then I had to take care of the house and the cats, and it was just a very difficult situation. But as I said, my wife is a superhero, and she went back and did that, and it was just, we got through it. We got through it. My family member's doing well, in remission, so I'm grateful for that. If you all have said any prayers or sent any thoughts or good energy their way, I really appreciate that. It's clearly helped, so, thank you for that. After January, I ended up still taking a second job because I needed the extra money, but I shifted to a different practice since I do therapy, private practice work on the side. And it was a better situation for me in the long run. So I'm happy that that's been working out as well as it has. I'm still there as far as, my second job. So I'm happy about that. It was nice. And then as April rolled around, I had a licensure exam. So for those that don't know or are maybe interested, what you need to do aside from getting a doctorate in order to be licensed as a psychologist, you need to pass a national exam. It's called the EPPP. It's the something exam for professional practice in psychology, I think is what it stands for. And it's a difficult test. They basically say you need to know everything about everything when it comes to psychology, and then we're not going to tell you, what you need, what's going to be on your test. You just need to know everything, and then, go in and take the test. And so you have, it's either 3 or 4 hours to do the test, and it's all multiple choice, thankfully, but it's very difficult. And so I had started studying late last year, in fact, in 2022. And, as the date grew closer, I started to feel a bit more confident. And I was thinking it was going to be okay. And then my wife got super sick. I mean, super sick. The weekend before I was supposed to go. And, guess who ended up catching it a few days later? So not only, could I not study those last few days because I was just so down and out, like fever, chills, exhaustion, but, I had to go in and take this test, even while I was feeling sick, because this test, it's after a certain point, they don't refund you the money. And it's like a $700 test. So, if you miss it, you're kind of screwed, and you have to, pay another $700. It's like, no. So I ended up taking it. I felt like I was failing the entire time I was taking it. I thought, I don't know how I'm going to tell all my friends and family that I failed this thing. As I was sitting there, I'm like, I'm going to walk out of here, I'm going to get my grade, and I'm just going to fail. And so I take the long walk down the short hallway to the lady that gives me the printout, and I ended up passing. I don't know how, but I ain't going to question it, so I'm grateful that's over. And that was that was the second to last thing I needed prior to applying for licensure. I had to finish up my internship / residency. And so as June rolled around, I ended up going back to Chicago for graduation, even though I didn't get my degree until July. And it was around that time that we learned my wife was pregnant, so that's exciting. We're expecting a little girl in February. She's due on Valentine's Day, so maybe she'll come that day, maybe not, but we're both very excited about that. And then July rolled around, and my normal day job, I was trying to transition from student to staff at the hospital that I work at, and there was a whole bunch of issues with getting me onboarded, and so I didn't have insurance for a while, and health insurance, and it was awful. It was just a very, very stressful time. But finally got onboarded, started to work in August. My wife got a new job around that time too, which was a lot less stressful for her. And then we started to think about, getting a new place, because we'd been living in a townhome that was it was way too small. And for those that have listened to my episodes, the acoustics weren't the best either. The acoustics aren't fantastic in this current room right now, but I have the ability to make them better versus a place that I'm renting. It just wasn't ideal. I was right next to someone who, was loud, and the neighbors would just, they'd rev their cars, their lawnmowers. We'd have airplanes overhead. It was like a conspiracy. Every time I sat down to record, it was just an exercise in patience, because, wow, I just could not get a quiet environment. no matter what time of day. I tried switching up times a day, and it just didn't happen. So I was looking forward for getting a new place, especially because we also were infested. We had rats in the attic that we took care of when we moved in, but unfortunately, the other side, the other townhome had a different landlord, and so they didn't want to do anything about it. So we had rats in the common walls, and there were roaches, and it was just a very frustrating situation. So we decided, since we're staying in the area that we're in, it's actually better to purchase a house than to rent, because renting, the rents are just outrageous, and the rental market's kind of garbage here anyways. So it just didn't make sense to be spending $1,800, $2,000 a month on rent when you could spend $200-$300 more, or maybe $200-$300 less for a mortgage payment, and actually own the house that you live in. So we started that whole process, and we had some difficulties with the seller of the house that we ended up purchasing. They weren't the kindest when it came to being considerate. We ended up, as an example, the day that we moved in, they were still getting their stuff out of the garage. And they were here all day getting their stuff out of the garage as we're trying to move in. And that was just, again, an exercise in frustration and patience, because, this is now my house, my wife's house. We've signed the paperwork. We're trying to move in, and you are still trying to move out. So that was a frustrating day. But ultimately, everything got solved. We moved in, and it's a huge house, which I had no idea I'd ever be fortunate enough to have a house this big. I always dreamed of a mansion on the ocean. That's my goal. And while this isn't a mansion on the ocean, it sure is a big house. And God willing, between me working on my next book, and who knows, maybe my first book going viral at some point, crossing the eyes of the right people, maybe there'll be something that comes of that too. So maybe the mansion on the ocean is still in my future, but who knows. Regardless, I am so grateful for the house that we have. There's too much room, and that's fantastic, because my wife and I would like to have more than one kid if possible. So it's an exciting time, overall. Though we're still trying to unpack boxes, even though we've been here for about a month, because she's so pregnant. Most of the unboxing falls on me, and after 4 days a week of working 2 jobs, and then 1 day a week of working 1 job, everything kind of lands on the weekends, and I'm tired, and so I'm trying to push myself to do it, and I hope that we get those boxes unpacked soon. And so, moving forward as we go into the new year, my plans personally are to finally get my license, which would be great. That's planned for January, so I can get my psychologist license and be independently licensed, which will be wonderful. I'm planning on having a daughter in February, which will be great. And I would also like to, during that time that I'm home for paternity leave, I would like to finish editing my next book and maybe shop that around to some test readers, see what they think about it, and potentially look for an agent to do a traditional publication thing. Unless my wife, she's planning on potentially doing some marketing for me while she is home with the baby, because she'll be off from her day job. So might be a way to get some extra income and boost my visibility. So we'll see if anything comes of that. But if not, I'd still like to get a book published and make make some money that way. So I'm grateful for the self-publishing that I did, but it's just me, and I don't know what I'm doing when it comes to marketing. So really, it's been difficult to get eyes on the book. So for those of you that have purchased a copy, I really appreciate that. It's a work of love that I made, and I think it's a good book. I really do. It's something that I poured a lot of time, energy, and effort into, just as I am with this next one, which I'd like to be a series. So we'll see if that ends up happening. But yeah, so those are my plans. I'd also, maybe eventually would like to take a honeymoon with my wife. We never did end up taking one, just because of the timing of everything. So hopefully we can take some time, this upcoming year for that. That'd be lovely. Once she's kind of settled from baby, we have family that we can leave the baby with, and then maybe we can go off for, a week or a long weekend. I don't know where. we'll have to figure that out, but. So that's at least, personally what's been going on in my life. And, if there have been any breaks or, extended breaks really in between episodes, or certain episodes have been kind of short, I really appreciate your patience with that. Seriously, probably since 2020, everything has just been so chaotic for me. And it feels like I'm coming to the end of it, trying to untangle everything. And I'm finally getting to, the last, knot or two. And then things can be pretty smooth sailing from here on out. So I'm grateful for that, and I'm grateful for your patience and your support throughout, again, what's been a pretty chaotic time in my life. A lot of change and a lot of growth and a lot of opportunities, coming up. It's just getting to this point. There was a lot of stress, a lot of hassle, a lot of hurt, dealing with just the people that I've dealt with over the last 3 years. So maybe one day I'll do a deep dive into a graduate program and all of the trials and tribulations of that. Which, speaking of, I think is a nice segue into what I'm planning on doing with this show and potentially other things as well. So now that I'm in a new house, I have space to actually do something with an office. And what I would like to do, and this is why I always encourage you all, if you want to support the show financially, to please pick up a copy of my book, because that helps increase a budget versus me just kind of putting money into it myself from my other jobs. I'm intending to upgrade my equipment. So I got a new desk a little while back, and it's sturdy enough to actually have an arm clamp for the mic, so that will be nice, instead of using this shoddy microphone stand that does not really hold a condenser mic all that well. I can actually have a nice, desk arm to use. I'd also like to potentially get some sound foam, potentially get, what was that thing called? It's like a halo, or like a cone that you put behind the microphone, so it kind of sounds like it's in a studio. So I'd kind of like to get one of those. And eventually I'd like to upgrade my interface. I have an iRig Pro. This is not a sponsorship at all, but I've had that for the last 7 years, I think. And it's served me well. It's fine, but it's incredibly basic. And I had it with my Mac when I was using that, and now I have it with my very basic PC. It gets the job done, so there's no complaints about that. It's just that it's old. I don't know how much longer it's got in it, so an actual soundboard interface would be great. And even spaces to kind of sit down and maybe have a little mini studio. There are things that I've talked with my wife about potentially doing, or fun, kind of relaxed shows, ideas where we could both kind of chime in and talk about things. But of course we would need, to set up the office so that we can do it that way. So have some ideas kicking around, and I'd like to put some money towards that, if at all possible. And as far as this show is concerned, my intention is to continue to do this show every other week. Now, that may change a little bit once baby girl comes along. But as far as, what I'm thinking with the show, let's see. Normally, I would do the 17th, the 31st. So I'll plan, actually I'll be away that weekend. So my plan is to come back then, I'll say January 28th, which is going to be, a little bit longer than a month, but the week I think I could normally do, I will be out of town with my wife, for our first fun trip. That actually ends up being fun. We took a trip last year that was just awful. We ended up coming home early because it was so bad. But this will be our first fun trip since 2021, and that's the trip where I proposed to her. So I'm looking forward to this long weekend coming up. Oh, excuse me. Of course, I got to burp. When I'm recording, but I look forward to this long weekend in January. So, end of January, I will plan to come back. Although, of course, if baby girl comes early, I may, need to take that off as well. So, we'll tentatively say January 28th, and then go from there. So, but yeah, I intend to keep this what it is for now. I've been thinking about switching it to monthly, and then maybe just having one long guided meditation. But I don't know. If you all think you'd prefer something like that, let me know. You can do that either on my website. The link is in the description, or you can let me know on Twitter, X. I do have that, and the link for that's in the description too. So, since I don't hear from every single person, I'm just not quite sure what people would find more beneficial, if they prefer maybe the longer, potentially 30 to 50 minute meditations that I could do maybe about once a month, versus the 15, 10 to 20 minute meditations that I'll do every other week. So, considering this show has only ever been every other week since I started it, I figured I could keep that going, unless I hear from other people that they would prefer something, maybe a bit longer, in which case, I can switch it to monthly. So, but those are my plans as far as what to do next. So, I know that this episode is fairly lengthy. But I do like to do this just to, give you all an update on, what was going on with me over the past year, and what I intend for the future as well. And of course, this message would not be complete without me pausing to thank each and every one of you for all of your support over the last year. This show was on a roll for a little while. I was getting thousands and thousands of people listening to the show, and it was getting to the point where I could even start getting sponsorships, which would be great. I'm like, oh yeah, this would be fantastic. And this was little to no marketing on my part. It was just, hey, I do this thing and putting it out there, and people came, and I really, really appreciated that. And that was the year, I think it was maybe 2019, 2020, something like that, where I just disappeared for a long time, and I just re-uploaded stuff from the archive, and I lost a lot of that audience, and that was on me. It was, I should have just sat down to, give you all a message about what was going on in my life at that point, but I didn't. I chose otherwise, and I lost that audience. Yet what continues to astound me and humble me is that I still get thousands of listens, which I'm very appreciative of, and I'm imagining that those listens are coming from people that really not only really enjoy my work, but have probably been listening for a long time. And as for those that don't know, I started this show out. Well, actually, it wasn't even a show. It was a singular pre-recorded meditation that I was going to use for a depression seminar. And one of the things that I was going to have people walk away with was 8-10 minute meditation that I recorded just to help them feel better. And that seminar never happened. The woman that I was supposed to put it on, she's a wonderful woman, but for whatever reason, it just fell through. And, we haven't really been in much contact since then, though I wish her well. I hope everything's good on her end. And so I decided, well, I had this thing, might as well put it up and do something with it. And so then I learned about podcasting and, how to do it, sort of the behind the scenes of it. And I'm by no means an expert, but I was at least able to get a show up on a storefront, and that was very exciting. So that's what led to this, and it's been going since 2016. And aside from that very lengthy break that I took, I've pretty much been going pretty consistently since then. So, I'm just very humbled by all of your support. I see every once in a while I'll check out the ratings in the iTunes store and just see really kind, positive words. Seeing the 5-star ratings are really helpful. And listen, even there's a few, 1 or 2-star ratings that, hey, there's some useful feedback in there. Maybe the people were just feeling reactionary and were like, 1 star, this is terrible. But even still, there was some good feedback in there that I could use and, to improve the quality of the show. But I don't tend to focus on those reviews. I tend to focus on the ones that tell me, what's working for them and how much the show has been helpful. And it's just very, heartwarming. Even in that long break where I just disappeared for however many months, like 8 or 9 months, whatever it was, I remember getting 1 or 2 emails from some listeners just like, hey, are you alive? What happened to you? I miss your meditations. And even though I was uploading ones from the archive, they were old, and it was just, it just went to show that, people cared about the work that I was doing. And, being on the creative side, it's nice to see the numbers go up. Of course, it would be great to see the thousands become tens of thousands, become hundreds of thousands, become millions of downloads, every episode. Yet, even though the numbers going up are nice, they're just numbers. And it's nice to put a name, to a comment and to have a more of a human connection. And so I really appreciated those people reaching out, just checking in on me, making sure I was okay. And I really appreciated the reviews that continued to roll in saying, this was so helpful for me. This calmed me down. This started my healing process or continued my healing process or maybe fulfilled my healing process, and it's really neat to see that. So truly from the bottom of my heart, none of this would be possible without all of you. Well, I guess it'd be possible without all of you, but it would be extremely unfulfilling and pretty lame if I just put up meditations that nobody listened to, But truly, I'm grateful for you all. And whether you've been listening since 2016 or whether this might be your first episode, if it is, thanks for listening this long. I don't know why this would be your first episode, but I appreciate it regardless. I appreciate all of you for the continued support, whether it's been a 5-star rating, a 5-star review, whether it's been sharing the episodes or the show, or whether it's just been listening every week because you somehow enjoy the burping that I do. No, you somehow connect with or get a lot of use out of the meditations that I do. Even if that's all you do, I'm appreciative of each and every one of you. So I do encourage, over this next month and some change, if you do like what I do, again, please consider picking up a copy of my book, as well as potentially sharing this episode with other people that you think it might benefit, as well as leaving a 5-star rating and or review in the store that you listen to this show in, whether it's iTunes or Google, whatever the case may be. But I really appreciate, all of you for whatever you do to support this show. So thank you. And since it's the end of the year, I do want to make a point to say, whatever you end up celebrating, I personally celebrate Christmas. I hope you all have a wonderful Christmas regardless, whether you celebrate or not. Hopefully it's still a good day for you, whether it's Hanukkah or whether it's, whatever other holidays that you end up celebrating. I hope that it is a wonderful, relaxing, peaceful, and rejuvenating end of the year for you. I hope that you just are blessed with abundance and joy and warmth from other people in your life. And I hope that you're able to share that with others as well. And I also hope that you have a wonderful New Year's, whatever your New Year's resolution may be. I encourage you to pick something that is going to better your life and, start the new year off on a great foot. I know people will say, oh, go to the gym more, which, hey, if that's what you want to do, by all means. Whatever you end up doing for the next year, though, I hope that the next year is full of abundance for you and full of healing and joy in what is seemingly a chaotic time in the world. But then I think to myself, has there ever been a very peaceful time in the world? Maybe not. So regardless, I hope you have a wonderful holiday season. I hope you have a wonderful New Year's. And I look forward to seeing you in January of next year, January 28th, for a new episode. And until next time, be safe, be well, be powerful.